Alright, what's going on everyone? So in this video I'm going to be showing you guys two different workouts. One is a leg workout and the other is my chest and shoulder workout. Both of these workouts were back to back. I think that I wanted to put both of these workouts together in the one video just to illustrate how it is our level of readiness or how we feel about a given workout, or especially going into a given workout, can just vary so much from day to day, and how it is that I've sort of learned to deal with this and overcome my emotional attachment to that variability. So the interesting thing is that both of these workouts were both happening at roughly the same time. So for whatever reason, I ended up just training really late that week. It was something like 10 p.m. Both workouts. Both workouts I had basically under 8 that day, just because I was very busy and well, I am intuitively eating, so I tend to eat only according to my appetite. And I guess I'm learning that one of the potential drawbacks of that is if you tend not to eat so much during the day, then by the time you get to your training session, if it happens to be very late at night, you might have set yourself up with a pretty big daily deficit for the, 12 or 14 hours that you were awake. What I'm trying to say is that all of the factors leading into the workout couldn't have predicted this. Both workouts were late at night. For both workouts I was underfed. And for both workouts I wasn't feeling particularly psyched or hyped up going into the workout. But yet one of these workouts I ended up feeling weak, and it ended up not being the most fantastic workout. And the other workout ended up being great, and it was one of the best chest and shoulder workouts that I've had in a while. So I think that what I wanted to talk about in this video is just how it is that I psychologically deal with the fact that there is going to be some degree of variability when it comes to your training performance and just your overall readiness to train on that day. I don't think you should try to force a particular feeling going into your workout. So basically, I talked about dietary acceptance in another video, and I've been applying some of the same principles to my training. And one thing that I used to do a whole lot of when I was sort of earlier in my career competing as an amateur was I would try to force myself to get hyped up before the workout. So I would double up on pre-workout, for example. On the way to the gym, I would try to find the most loud and aggressive and hyped up music that I could find and play it really loud. And I used to try to get myself out of, say, like more of a feeling of funk and get myself more hyped up, and I would try to force that. And then when I got to the gym, I would have the music playing really loud in my headphones, and I would basically be rushing and trying to get to a point where I felt like I would be pumped up and ready to lift the weights that I had to do that day. And what I've come to learn is that that isn't something that really can be forced, at least not for me. And what I found to be much more effective is just simply accepting your own psychological and your own mental state going into the gym, and recognizing that a single workout isn't going to make or break you in the grand scheme of things. What will potentially make or break you in the grand scheme of things is how you react to any given workout, and then how that affects subsequent workouts. And this actually took me a really long time to realize, and I think it might stem in part from the fact that all through my early athletic career, I've always put a lot of pressure on myself to perform. So, for example, if I was running sprints as a basketball player in high school, there was just simply no way I wasn't going to give 100% of my effort. And if I still wasn't, say, the first person back, then I would be hard on myself about that, and I would still think that that wasn't enough. And I think a part of this attitude probably has been, at least in part, responsible for why I've been successful as a professional bodybuilder. But I also think that it's caused me a lot of psychological anguish that I didn't necessarily need to feel. And it's also potentially held me back in a lot of ways, because historically how I would feel if a workout wasn't going exactly the way I wanted it to is I would just basically beat myself up about that, and then be fearful that this was going to continue. Even if I knew that the next workout was going to be a fresh start, somewhere in my mind I would convince myself that I had somehow derailed. And I don't know if this is common or not, but it's a psychological thing that I certainly have gone through. And basically how it is that that differs from how it is that I handle bad workouts now is that I just accept it. I accept it as a reality that just like weigh-ins are going to vary from day to day, and they're going to fluctuate, so will your training performance. And even if all of the same variables are in place in exactly the same way, you're still going to have some variability, just because there's so much that goes into physical readiness, and there's such an interplay between things that are going on psychologically and in your own personal life that can really play into and impact on how it is a workout goes. So basically what I've started to do is, rather than really force a feeling of being hyped and pumped up, I simply accept whatever it is my internal state is at that point in time and just roll with it. One thing that I do try to do is enter each training session from a perspective of gratitude. So I try to think about the fact that there are so many people who would feel so lucky just to be able to have the opportunity to train at a facility that I train at, and that I'm able to train at. And also the fact that some people would love to physically be able to do the exercises and so on that I am able to do because I'm able-bodied in that way. And when you think about that, it kind of makes the fact that you have a bit of a daunting task ahead of you seem a little bit trivial in comparison to sort of the global or grand picture of what it is that's happening. So that is one thing that I remind myself of. And the other thing that I do is try to just put myself into kind of like a light or a humorous mind state. So if I'm going to the gym with, say, a training partner or Robin, then I'll try to make it so that we're in more of like a playful, joking mood, so that things are just light. And then when I start the workout that way, I feel much less rushed and pressured to perform, and I just feel much more ready to see what it is that happens on that day. And I will say that the vast majority of times, what ends up happening is that when I go through my full warm-up and I get the blood flowing and I get the endorphins going, I end up just feeling really good anyway, and the workout ends up going really well for me. And then sometimes I get warmed up and I still am not feeling it. I'm still feeling a little bit sluggish, but then I'll get into a couple working sets and things turn around very quickly. Every now and then, like I would say once every couple of months, I'll start my working sets and I'll recognize that I'm just weak that day. I'm just not ready to really kill it like I normally would. And on these days, historically, I would have gotten emotionally involved in that fact. But really, to me, this is akin to just getting upset about the fact that your weight is up a pound or something. In the grand scheme of things, as long as the general trend is towards progression, then those daily variances really are just a blip, and they're way so far down in the weeds that it's not even worth giving it your attention. So this is sort of a shift in focus that I've luckily managed to have, and I think that it's improved the quality of my training, and probably more importantly, the quality of my perspective towards my training. I think that these two workouts really does illustrate that. because the squat workout, I went in and I put 365 pounds on the bar, and it moved really slow and just didn't feel great. And rather than say, you know what, last week I got all the way up to 405 for a set of 5, I said, you know what, for whatever reason tonight that isn't going to happen, so rather than force that, I'll simply aim to add a rep. So I did 365 for a set of 6 rather than 5. And I only went as far as I was able to go, and that was that. I didn't let it impact on later workouts, and I'm confident that in the next squat workout, I'll either be able to do or beat what I did the previous week, or I won't. But either way, I think that there's no sense in emotionally attaching to that outcome. And then the last thing I will just say is that I think that this might be able to be taken too far, in that you could get to a point where you're just so accepting of any outcome that you become complacent. And I think that this isn't likely to happen if you're genuinely motivated by your training, and if you're genuinely enjoying what it is that you're doing, and you feel passionate about the goal that you have set for yourself. And so I think that when people get to a point where they're complacent or they're indifferent to their training, or even when they start to have contempt for their workouts, then that's probably more so a function of that person not having either clearly enough set out what it is that their goal is. They might not have set up those parameters clearly enough, or they just might be working towards a goal that isn't truly important to them, or they might have just not. They might just not be organizing their training in a way that is enjoyable for them and rewarding. That isn't to say that should be the primary thing that you're thinking about when you're setting up your training. Certainly you're going to have to go through some periods of training where it might be miserable at times and certainly difficult. However, I think that overall, if you want to accept at face value that this journey is really, in bodybuilding and also in powerlifting, a marathon and not a sprint, then you need to set yourself up with a psychological approach that's in line with that. So that's basically my rant on all of that, guys. I hope that you enjoyed that workout footage. Thank you so much for watching and listening to me rant about this stuff. It's not something that I normally talk about, but it is something that I have been thinking about quite a bit lately and sort of putting into practice on my own. So I figured I would just share it with you guys, sort of unfiltered and unscripted. So I hope that was okay. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button. Do subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I have a lot of really exciting collaborations coming up with some of the top people, top coaches in the fitness community. We're going to be doing at least 2 more roundtables in the next month on really cutting edge topics. So if you guys don't want to miss that, you can feel free to turn on your notifications and at least be sure to subscribe. So yeah, once again guys, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.